Well, good morning. I'm Jeff Coleman.
And I'm Deborah Pinkerton. Welcome to Morning Light.
Well, if there ever was a Christian virtue that seems incompatible with chasing the American dream, it's contentment. The idea of having enough. The Morning Light panel will discuss why posting your daily grind on social media may be the ultimate enemy of contentment, Deborah.
Very interesting.
What did you post this morning?
But first, here's a preview of what's coming up later in the show. The Bible emphasizes the importance of time, teaching us to use it wisely. Tomorrow is not promised. So how do we make the most out of the 24 hours we're given? And how can we set examples for our children and also our grandchildren? 2 Christian counselors will weigh in.
Teach us to number our days.
That's right. Appreciate every day.
That's right. Every moment. Well, it seems like everyone's doing it these days. Pastors, athletes, actors, social media influencers sharing their daily routines from 5 a.m. wake-ups to egg whites and chia powder shakes to morning miles logged on the treadmill. Even open Bibles and quiet times with coffee make the cut. Our social media feeds are filled with videos of the ideal morning designed to provoke curiosity, maybe even a little bit of envy. I do get a little envious of the 4:30 a.m. crew, even though I'm pretty close to that hour.
I don't know how really people have time to do something like that.
You make time
to
be famous, right?
So is that using time wisely?
We'll see.
Well, but what's behind this trend of putting our lives before dawn online for the world to see? And who really cares? Well, according to the data, a lot of us do. Whether on TikTok or Instagram, the public is rewarding those of us who post with millions of views, thousands of dollars in ad revenue, and product placement opportunities for brands. In other words, we're curious about other people's lives, even if it's not real.
We are very curious about what people's lives look like before makeup in the morning, right? But is there anything concerning about this trend? Is it just a good way to motivate ourselves to try harder, to do better, to watch the minutes of our day a little more carefully? Or does it stir up what the early church fathers might have warned of, conjuring up envy, jealousy, discontentment, and comparison? Does peeking into the lives of others make us more content or wake up those insatiable appetites inside? We'll take this big question to the Morning Light panel. Robert William, Tannon, Herman, and social media influencer Haley Taylor. We are honored to have you on the panel today. And for a topic that you know just a little bit of something about. Very honest, we have a few people in our viewing audience who have no idea what we're talking about here. What are we talking about that people are posting their morning routines on the internet, and what is driving the curiosity? Why do people care?
I mean, I can tell you why I do it. I enjoy sharing things about my life with my friends. A lot of my friends follow me on social media. I'll have people that recognize me from social media at school. It's basically just a fun way to keep people updated, and I think we like to see what other people are doing, get inspiration. We just went on a trip and we looked on TikTok to see what we should do in the different cities. So
it's a very different way of experiencing. You're almost experiencing life in 3D in a way, right? So when marketers look at this and think, how do we monetize this? What can we do to cash in on it? What are they looking for? And how does that work?
Yeah, I've worked with brands like Amazon and Hey Dudes, and typically they're looking for someone who has reach. So someone who has followers that are engaged with their content, that are commenting, liking, sharing. And typically they'll reach out and say, you know, we want you to post this video, basically telling your friends and your fans how great this product is and how much it would benefit them. And
give me an example of a product that you've had to talk about in the morning.
Like Hey Dudes, they sent me a certain type of shoe, and so it's like incorporating that into an outfit and being like, this shoe is so amazing, it fits with my outfit, it's great, and in exchange for that you get, you know, free shoes, or you get paid, and you get to maybe influence someone to buy those shoes as well.
We have a lot of people in our audience right now who are creating TikTok accounts just so right now.
Just to get free shoes.
Yeah, to get free shoes. All right, so Tannon, I want to, as we're thinking through this, so there are obvious, anytime there's something new or a new trend, we try to put it through the lens of our faith. What are the questions we should be asking before we decide to post? Before we post, how do we check our heart to make sure that the motive is right?
I mean, you would hope that we have perfect awareness of our motives, and that's really the power of the Holy Spirit, is to help us become aware of those things. I mean,
because I don't hear Haley talking about like my goal is to make people jealous of me in the morning.
Sure, absolutely not.
Which is not correct.
Absolutely not. And I think that's what can be difficult about social media is you're just excited to share something, but you don't control how somebody responds or reacts to that announcement. And that is what I would say is a sad piece in social media. Is that I think the intent and the design was to connect people, but unfortunately it can, as we've seen in everyday life, it can divide people or unfortunately set people up for disappointment because they're prone to jealousy or to envy or whatever that might be. So it is difficult, because I would love it if we all had the self-control to look at social media as an opportunity to learn, to celebrate, to connect, but instead there's all those other, it's like a minefield, of opportunities, which is personally why I'm not super engaged on it myself.
Yeah. So, Robert, I'm going to get to you, but I want to come back to you and just ask, so how do you control the minefield? How do you tiptoe through that so that you don't become seduced by your own hype, that you don't believe your own likes and shares, but also can still enjoy the mediums?
Yeah, I would definitely say that, when I'm looking for truth or something to speak into my life, I'm not going to go to social media. Typically, when I'm looking at social media, I'm like, okay, this is cool. This is something I'd like to do, but it's not ultimately what defines me. And when I'm looking for truth, I will go to the Bible and I will look at what God says about me. Even with Christian influencers or people out there who are posting their quiet times, I would still double check that and make sure that what it says is biblically accurate. I think that really being tuned in, like it says, to be abiding in the vine, that is really going to be the most helpful thing when it comes to motives and just checking your own heart and making sure you're not becoming envious.
But I guess it's like everything else. Every trip to the store, every trip online, you've got to check that. Robert, you've been navigating social media. You're trying to. What do you do to make sure that that what you're sharing online, what you're posting online, and then what you're receiving is put through the right filter so that you immediately don't react and draw the sword or want to hit reply or get? How do you control your responses?
You got to think 2 steps ahead before you post anything. And that's the process I go through every time I post a comment. One of my most consistent and routine postings is on Sunday mornings. It's time to pray and worship. It's pretty much the mantra I use. And every Sunday, I pull in the parking lot, drop my wife, I'll pull in the parking lot, and that's what I post before I go into church. Partly to let people know I'm a Christian, and partly this is important to me that I go to a house of worship on Sunday morning. But the other comments, like I'm passionate about international education, so I will post stuff related to that to try to get people thinking about that, especially if you're a student. And then the politics, Now there, I'm very careful because I do get pushback, and that's once you post something, you got to deal with that. It's there, and you got to be prepared for that. And so there's a healthy give and take on that as well. So I try to balance things out. As much as my wife thinks I spend all day and all night on my phone. I don't. I really don't.
So this is helpful because what you're saying is interesting. That you're not posting, it's time to pray and worship on Sunday morning because you're drawing to attention to how holy you are. It really is just almost to invite people in to say, hey, there's something happening here you may want to check out and participate. So does that feel like a proper use of the tool of social media?
I mean, I don't know if you can really define what's better or best. I mean, I certainly appreciate it's an opportunity to inform people of who you are. And I think that's the thing that makes social media so dicey, though, too, is because people may not like what you show them. They may not believe what you believe. And it is consequential, for better and for worse. And I think that when you do have influence, you do need to have a measure of awareness of what that means to other individuals as well. And I'm not saying that you should never tell people what you believe or stand for. I think that the unfortunate reality is some people get shocked and offended when there's like a different person with a different perspective. And my prayer would be this, is that we would all demonstrate the self-control control to scroll past things that we don't align with instead of
just keep walking,
doing the angry emoji, or just
Yeah.
like how do we just like kind of like, you know, like not engage? And because I think it allows us to maintain peace, and we don't have to engage in all the nonsense. But
all right, Haley, I need to have you do a little generational translating here.
Okay.
Because for viewers who are not in the 20-something, even 30-something age, who are looking at social media, they often don't know how to weigh what is important and what's not, what's real, what's not, what's AI, what's not AI. How, if you were sitting next to a person who was 75, maybe 80, and they've got their phone out, and you hear their reactions to things that they're watching, how do you help them, as a Christian, filter the information they're receiving and not go immediately to the first reaction?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's really big today. A lot of things on social media are to just get a reaction and to get you to comment and be angry. I would say really just taking a second. I like to say pause and pray. So if something's really getting you worked up, just take a second and think, you know, is this really impactful to my life? Is this really something that's going to affect me when I turn off my phone? Or is this just something that somebody else is saying, and, you know, there's how many other people in this world that have different views.
Right.
I think it's also important to not just have community online. It's important to have people in your life that are also speaking truth, and you can rely on them and ask them, you know, what do you think about this? Is this something that I should be upset about, or like should I not engage with it and try to get off that side of the internet? You know?
Right. So this is very helpful. So to maybe sum up all the advice, we have to pause, to stop, to evaluate it, to put your filter on, to not leave your Christian filter off, what you bring to it, and then to ask these big questions, right? The question is, what are this person really saying to me in this post, and do I need to engage it, or do I need to, as the country song says, walk on by, right? So, Robert, last 30 seconds to you. Just advice for people who are today going onto the internet. They're going to find some things on there they do not like. Maybe it's Congress, maybe it's the White House, maybe it's a governor in some state 1,000 miles away. Maybe it is something an entertainer is doing. Last 10 seconds now. What's the caution?
Well, don't believe everything you read on the internet and Facebook and so on, and watch how you react.
Yeah.
Control
and then
that.
go back to the source of truth, right, Haley? Yep. Friends, thank you. This was very helpful. I think you helped a lot of people this morning navigate the internet, the Wild West. Coming up on Morning Light, time is something we all think about. It affects our daily lives, from waking up for work or school to planning fun activities with friends. So how can we use the 1,440 minutes we're given every day wisely? A Christian counselor tells us how we can be a good steward. Up next, you're watching Morning Light right here on Lighthouse TV.
Welcome back. As Christians, we need to understand that time is a precious gift from God. Each tick of the clock is an opportunity to experience joy, serve others, and grow in our relationship with Christ. So how do we slow down the hectic pace of our lives? Joining me is Jess Mead, the clinical director with Foundations Christian Counseling. Jess, thanks for being with us. Thanks. Let's talk about time management. What does the Bible say about it?
I would say, if we look at Ecclesiastes, it tells us that there is a time for everything. And so when we're looking at time management, it's important to look at it in light of there is a time to do everything. There's seasons, and being a good steward of the time that we have. Our time is one of our most valuable resources. How can we use it well and not squander it?
And how can we use it well? It seems like we are always on the go.
Everybody, I think, feels that way to some extent. And so I think it's prioritizing, not just personal priorities, family priorities. How do we want to spend our time? Do we want to spend our time eating around the television and not having a conversation? Maybe some families want to do that, but is that being a good steward of the time that God has given you? Our days are numbered, and we don't know the number, but God does. How can we make sure that we are using the days He has given us to fulfill our calling, whether that's family? I think that's one of the greatest callings, but how are we using our time wisely and looking at it really as a gift?
That's right. I like that. Each day is a gift.
Yeah.
So how do we map that out? How can we look at the day and say, okay, today I'm going to be intentionally slower?
Yes. I think it's looking at, what do I have to do? Like, what do I have to do? And so I'm going to talk as a mom, like, I have to make dinner. I have to pack lunches. There are things I have to do. I might not want to do them, but it's something that we have to do. And then it's looking at, like, all right, I have these set times. What am I going to do with them? Am I going to further my own relationship with the Lord and spend time in the Word, time in devotions? Am I going to, on a Sunday morning when it might feel tempting to sit home with a cup of coffee and not go to church? Or am I going to steward my time well and go in fellowship with a community of believers and model that to our children and to the other people around us too? And so I think it's just that intentional. I don't want to waste time scrolling. I don't want to waste the time that I have doing things that are not edifying and not really helping the kingdom in some way.
And why is it so important to slow down?
We were never created to have this chaotic pace of life. Even God at creation took a day to rest, and he didn't even need to. And while we are created in the image of God, he gives us this framework of, like, you need to rest. I don't know that there's anything specifically sacred about a Sunday. There are people, our pastors are working on Sundays, but are they taking a day to have a Sabbath and a day of rest, another day of the week? We were never created to go, go, go. What does it look like to rest? And, our Heavenly Father modeled that for us. What makes us think that we are better than that and that we don't need that?
And as far as this is concerned, I think it is important for us to slow down because we are setting an example for our kids, for our grandkids.
Yes.
They're watching us.
Every second.
So if we're just going, don't you think that is something important for us to set a better example?
Absolutely. And how are they seeing us use our downtime? Are they seeing us just sit and scroll? That is the easiest thing to do. That's mindless, and after a long day, maybe that's what we are tempted to do. But what if we say, hey, let's let's play a game. Let's invest our time and our greatest resource into our kids, modeling that, but also engaging it with them in that.
Yeah. Put down the phone.
Yeah.
And just spend time.
Yep.
Spend time wisely.
Absolutely.
Jess, thanks so much for being with us. Coming up next on Morning Light, you've probably heard the expression time is money, but that's not true. Time is the one thing money cannot buy. We will have tips to manage your time better so you don't waste the precious moments you have with your children and grandchildren. That's right after the break. Children and even grandchildren can sense our stress. Instead of enjoying the time we have, many of us get caught up in the pressures of this world. Earlier, I spoke with Christian counselor Ryan Bailey, who says when we walk with the one who created time, rest is possible. Ryan, thanks for joining us. Let's talk about time management and our kids. They see how we as adults manage our time.
That is so true. It's actually scary because they actually detect the why behind how we manage our time. So oftentimes if we as adults are like managing our time in a way to try to get, some sort of accomplishment or striving for approval or things like that, they see that in how it is that our stress builds up and just all the different choices that we make. And they start to think that that's the way their life is supposed to be as well. They're supposed to manage time from a position of accomplishing or striving or things like that, that makes life so much harder for them. It's literally would be so different if we as parents learn to function from a place of knowing how deeply loved we are by God. And then that calm and rest as we kind of work through our day would show up in our kids as well, and they would accomplish way, way more.
Because it is difficult for our youth. They have so much on their plates right now.
It's so crazy. I feel like, especially in sports, my kids were way, way more traveling than I was as a kid or doing different things like that. Plus, they've got school and then they've got instruments and then they got a social life and then they have social media that's playing everything. It feels like our kids are constantly striving and at times trying to escape from having to strive. And frankly, I think that's why a lot of kids play video games. It's just an escape from having to try to manage it all or try to do it all at such a high level. Or the fear is that if I don't do it at that level, that means something terrible. And so, yeah, it is so stressful for them.
So how can we really guide them as far as handling time management in a better way?
Yeah, I think each kid's different. So, like, we have to meet them where they are. We really have to listen to them. We have to empathize. We have to get the why behind their way of managing time. We also need to show them that how secure God's love is for them and how much that helps to settle them and to not have to spend all this energy striving and proving and trying to get worth in a way that they already, frankly, have a better form of it. And so, frankly, if we just first help them with their mindset, and then if we just get a little strategic and focus on priorities, it would make a huge difference for them.
And in the end, how will that really help them?
Yeah, so if you think about it, if we're constantly thinking we have to prove our worth or we have to accomplish in order to be significant, it's exhausting. It's like nail biting. We're only as good as our next performance. But if instead we're coming from a place where we know God loves us as much as he loves Christ, like John 17:23 says, we're so much more secure. We can then free up all that energy that went towards striving in the wrong forms of accomplishment and actually use it to do the work that he's called us to do. And so less escaping, much more focus, better rest, and frankly, we'll outperform what we did before because now it's coming from a place of being secure.
And really, what more does the Bible say about time management?
Yeah, Bible stresses that time is a gift from God. It's actually a stewardship thing more than a spend thing. So, Ephesians talks about make the best use of time because the days are evil. And we want to make sure that we're always making the most of what he's given us because there is a limited amount of time, but we don't want to do it in a way that moves us away from actually living to please him and trying to get something other than him. We want to focus it towards everything we do as an act of worship to him. And in that way, there's much more rest, even in a busy day.
Really something to pray about, too. For when you wake up in the morning, God, how can I manage my day? How can I use my time wisely?
Absolutely. And also just, making sure that we remember to say, Father, help me to remember how much you love me so that I spend the time in a way that's worthwhile. And it comes from a place of joy and not restlessness. And then that'll help us set better priorities and focus on what matters most. And then obviously be way more grateful as the day goes on because we can't miss. He's already loved us. So if we screw anything up in the day, he's already got that covered. And it's a way better way to live.
Ryan, thank you so much for your guidance. These are some simple steps we can implement into all of our lives.
So happy to be here with you guys. Thank you.
Ryan has several blog articles for you to read on time management. Check out firstprinciplegroup.com/blog. Stay with us. We're back right after the break. Welcome back. Coming up tomorrow on Morning Light, we continue our Faith Journey segment with two of our most popular panelists, John Wetzel and Cynthia Lyons. They will share how God is working in their lives. And that's a look at what's coming up tomorrow on Morning Light. Now, Jeff, your closing thoughts.
Well, thank you, Deborah. I can't wait for those conversations tomorrow. Well, take a minute today to think about the person in the world you wish wasn't on the planet anymore. No, I'm serious. The man or woman you believe would make the world a better place just by their absence. Yes, that person. Maybe it's a dictator from yesteryear. Now look at them through the lens of what we say we believe, what we believe as Christians, as Christ followers, that every life is made in God's image. that every person has dignity and value. Every person has worth, intrinsic worth. Someone isn't more or less valuable because they're a Democrat or a Republican. They worked hard, or they played by the rules, or they achieved the American dream, or they squandered it recklessly. Every day when I'm tempted to believe the world would be better if someone weren't here, or if their voice wasn't heard, if they weren't alive, I have to remember God's love was never conditioned on me being good or behaving right or thinking right. His love is a gift, free and clear. The only thing we bring to God is our mess, and out of that mess, He makes something incredibly beautiful, and that's great news for all of us. For Deborah and the entire Morning Light team, I'm Jeff Coleman. Thanks for watching today. Now go check on your neighbors. God willing, we'll see you back here tomorrow morning.